This lesson will be about dividing with rational numbers. Rational numbers include decimals as well as fractions. Our first problem is 42 4/10 divided by -2. A positive divided by a negative will be a negative answer. So remember that, or go ahead and put a negative in your answer blank. And then we go about our process of long division. 42 4/10 is the dividend, which means it goes on the inside. 2 is our divisor, which means it goes on the outside. Your decimal is pretty easy to take care of because there's no visible decimal in the divisor. So wherever it is in the dividend, bring it straight up and then divide. 2 divides 4 2 times. 2 times 2 is 4, and if you subtract and get 0, you can bring down the 2 beside it. 2 will divide 2 one time, so place it above the 2 in the dividend. 2 times 1 is 2, and when you subtract, you get 0, and you can bring down the last number, which is 4. 2 divides 4 two times. Now this goes on the other side of the decimal because it's above the 4. 2 times 2 is 4, and when you subtract, you get 0. Our answer is -21 2/10. Our next number does not have a visible decimal in either the dividend or the divisor, so we know it's at the end of both numbers. Negative divided by negative is a positive. Anytime the signs match, your answer will be positive. When the signs don't match, your answer will be negative. So 532 is my dividend, 8 is my divisor. 8 will not divide 5. 8 will divide 53 6 times. 8 times 6 is 48. Subtract, and you'll have 5. Bring down the 2 in your dividend. 8 will divide 52 6 times. 8 times 6 is 48. When you subtract, you'll have 4. Now after the decimal, since it was at the end of the 532, and bring it straight up. Now I can add as many zeros as I need to see if there's a pattern developing or if this decimal terminates. So if you bring a 0 down, 8 times 5 is 40, and it does terminate. So if I subtract 40 from 40, I'll have a 0 remainder. My answer is 66 5/10. This problem changes a little bit because now we have a decimal visible in the divisor. So when I set this up, it's 2/10 as your divisor, 5/100 as my dividend. When you divide, if there's a decimal in the divisor, move it to end of the number. That may be 1 move, that may be 5 moves, as many moves as it takes to move the decimal with the 2 to the end. And in this problem, it's just one place. So I'm going to repeat that amount of moves always in the dividend. Now you're able to bring the decimal straight up in the quotient and forget about it and divide as normal. 2 times 0 is 0, and 2 times 2 is 4, which gets us really close to 5. So when I subtract, I have a 1. Since I'm already to the right of the decimal, I can bring down another 0 if I need to. 2 divides 10 5 times, so the answer is going to be 25/100, and it's going to be positive because both my dividend and divisor were positive. I would have a 0 remainder, so I have 25/100 as my answer. This is a negative divided by a negative, so my answer will be positive. I also have a decimal in the divisor, so I have to move the decimal to the end of the 4/100, which is 2 decimal moves. I will move it 2 places in the dividend as well, and then I can bring it straight up. But you'll notice when I moved it 2 places in the dividend, there was an empty space. I'll put a 0 there as a placeholder, and then my decimal comes straight up above it. How many 4s are in 1? There are none. How many 4s are in 16? There are 4. 4 times 4 is 16. So when you subtract, you get 0. Bring down the next number, and it's 8. How many 4s are in 8? And there are 2. So 2 times 4 is 8. When you subtract, you get 0, and I bring down my final number in the dividend, which is 0. You have to keep dividing until you get to the decimal, and then if you terminate, there's no reason to continue. So 4 times 0 is 0, and my answer is going to be a positive 420. So try this one. If you haven't done it independently before now, pause my voice, see if you can finish this one on your own, and then turn it back on and check your answer. I have a decimal in the dividend and the divisor. Move it to the end in the divisor. Move it that many places, which was 2, in your dividend, and you'll have to create a 0 placeholder. Then bring the decimal straight to the top in your quotient. How many 20s are in 3? There are none. How many 20s are in 36? There's 1. 20 times 1 is 20. When you subtract that from 36, you'll get 16. 20 will not divide 16. Bring your 5 down. How many 20s are in 165? And that would be 8. 20 times 8 gives me 160. When you subtract, you get a 5. Bring down the 0 and the dividend, and you'll have how many 20s are in 50? There are 2. 2 times 20 is 40. When you subtract, you get 10. I can bring down one more 0 to see if there's a pattern developing or if I have a 0 that terminates. If you bring that 0 down, 20 will divide 100 an even amount of times, which is 5. So my answer would be 182 and 5/10, and it's positive because both the dividend and divisor were positive. Now we're going to practice a few with fractional division. I have 2/3 divided by 1/4. What you'll notice is I have no mixed fractions, and that's ideal because what I'm going to teach you is something called keep, change, flip, and they both need to be simple fractions if I'm to do that. So what I'm going to do is to keep the 2/3, change the division to multiplication, and flip the second fraction. And now I can look diagonally or vertically to see if I have anything that will simplify, and if not, just multiply straight across. It was a positive times a positive, so my answer will be positive, and it's going to be 8/3. 8/3 satisfies me, but sometimes on tests that might not be a choice. So to make it a mixed fraction, you're going to simply divide 8 by 3, and you'll find that it goes 2 whole times with 2 left over. So that translates to 2 2/3. Now this example has a mixed fraction, so I'm going to change the -2 1/4 to a mixed fraction by multiplying 2 times 4 to get 8 and adding the 1, which is -9/8. By the way, negative divided by a negative will give us a positive. So the -9/4, keep the same denominator. I'm going to keep it. I'm going to change the division to multiplication, and I'm going to flip the second fraction. Now this one has something diagonally that is common to 4 and 8. The factor that is common to 4 and 8 is 4. 4 divides 4 one time, 4 divides 8 two times, then you can multiply straight across with the smaller numbers. 9 times 2 is 18, 1 times 1 is 1, so the answer will be 18. Okay, try this one on your own. So if you want to pause the lesson and try it on your own to see how you do. -3/15 divided by -1 2/5. -3/15. I'm going to work on that second fraction to make it improper before I flip. So that becomes 5 times 1 is 5 plus 2 is 7. It becomes 7/5. I should have put a negative there, but I forgot. So I have -3/15. Keep, change, flip. You'll notice that 15 and 5 shared a 5. So 5 divides 5 one time, 5 divides 15 three times. And when I multiply straight across, that should be positive 3/21. Okay, I went back and changed those to reflect the proper sign. Now I'm going to take it to lowest terms. 3 and 21 still share a factor of 3. 3 divides 3 one time, 21 divides 3. 21 divided by 3 is 7. So the answer would be positive, I need to change that one too. The answer would be positive 1/7. Alright guys, as you just saw on that previous slide, that it can be very easy to mistake a sign. So at the very beginning, if you can establish your sign before you get caught up in the division, it's probably better. Hope you did better than I did. Have a good day.